A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
What's up, Cal fans? We are back with another very special episode of California Golden Bearcast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Andy. Alongside me, as always, is Rob. And today we have a very special guest for all of you. Coach Ron Rivera has joined the Bearcast. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to talking with both you and Rob.
We are so grateful to have you here, and just thank you again so much for your time, and so excited for the conversation. Rob, I'm going to pass it over to you to get us started a little bit on Coach's background.
Let's get acquainted with Coach here. Mr. Ron Rivera, 1983 All-American, sets a program record of 26.5 tackles for loss in a single season with 13 sacks as well in 1983. Finished his Cal career with 337 tackles, the only Cal player in the 1980s to earn first-team AP honors. The one-time All-Pac-10 first team, two-time All-Pac-10 second team, Pac-10 co-defensive player of the year, led Cal in tackles in 3 seasons, finished with a program record of 47.5 tackles for loss. A Cal Hall of Fame inductee in 1994, was a second-round pick of the Chicago Bears in 1984, played 149 games in the league with 392 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, 9 interceptions, primarily at linebacker, and a 1985 Super Bowl 20 winner, was an assistant coach for the Eagles, Bears, and my San Diego Superchargers, a 2005 assistant coach of the year with the Bears and a defensive coordinator with the San Diego Chargers until he moved to Carolina, has the highest regular season win percentage as a head coach in Panthers history, the most wins as a Panthers head coach in Panthers history, 3 NFC South Division titles, 1 NFC Championship, 4 playoff berths, 2-time NFL Coach of the Year, and now the first ever GM of Cal football.
Well, that was a pretty big introduction there, Rob. I got to live up to it now.
Hey, you have more accolades than Andy and I could ever possibly think of. So, we had to highlight all of this.
I was very fortunate. I really was. The opportunity to go to Cal was I still consider it one of the greatest gifts I've ever earned. And then graduating, I think probably one of the most important days in my dad's life. It was important in my life, but it was very important to my father. So I cherish that as well. But more so than anything else, probably the most important thing that happened to me at Cal was I met my wife. Stephanie is an undergrad as well. She played women's college basketball. But most importantly, we've been married 40 years. And the key is we met at Yogurt Park.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. 40 years is incredible, Coach. What is there, if you had to give advice to, I'm 8 years in.
Oh, wow. Good.
We're on our way, But if you had to give one piece of advice, or if you do give advice on how you make 40 years, what would that be?
I think more so than anything else is it's always about communications, and it's not always about talking, but it's about listening. That's probably the biggest thing. Stephanie and I listen to each other, and it's one of those things that we've been fortunate that we also laugh at each other a lot. But I really do. I think communication is probably the biggest thing. And when I say communications, it's again not about talking, but it's about listening as well.
I love that. I think that's the best advice I've ever received in my professional career, for sure. Our CHRO came in, and she's VP of people at Tesla and all this, and she said, "What's the best advice you could give?" And she said, "You said just listen. Like, people would do a lot would do a lot better if they could just focus on listening and be intentional about it." So that's amazing. Well,
I agree.
One of the things we want to kick off with is we feel like there might be some understanding, at least, we can certainly get that understanding of what a professional general manager might do for a pro sports team, but would love to get your perspective on what it's like for a collegiate team, and then how that might compare against, I think I read an article that Andrew Luck had reached out to Sam Presti and talked with him. So it's just kind of curious, like, what have you noticed those differences? What do those kind of look like?
I think the biggest thing is, for each university, this position is going to be basically what is needed. One of the best pieces of advice I got about stuff like this is be the best person they need. Okay. I could come in with wanting to do exactly what a general manager does in the NFL. I could get over there and I could have taken over all the personnel decisions. I could have gone over there and taken over a big portion of the coaching and being involved with it directly. But what I did was I got here in my first probably 3 months, I did a lot of listening. I really did. And that's why I think it's such great advice, Andy and Rob. I just think that if you listen to what people say and try to understand what they're saying, it makes a big difference. So I did that. And then as I came in, I realized they didn't need somebody to come in and fix football. They needed somebody to come in and support football. They needed somebody to come in and do the things that free the head coach up. I had to get Justin away from some of these things that are time consuming, mind numbing, distractions that don't involve really the aspect of football on the field. In the meeting rooms, in the locker room. And I've taken those things and I've taken them off his plate. And now I'm the one doing those things, which is fine. That's what my role is. That's what I'm going to do. And if it's the best thing for Justin, I'm going to do that for Justin. And I just feel like he's gotten the opportunity to really, truly coach again. And some people have told me they've noticed it. They've noticed it in his face, in his smile, in his attitude, and his joy is back as far as being a head coach. For me, it really is. It starts with resource development. In other words, reaching out to the donors, reaching out to the alumni, and re-engaging, trying to create a relationship with our former players, trying to reach out to campus and have touch points with our academic side. To simple things too, like we're going to have a faculty appreciation night. At our second home game against Minnesota. And the idea behind that is we have a number of faculty members that have been honored with teaching awards. So we're going to honor them. And again, part of it is just to re-engage. So those are the things that this is what our general manager is doing right now. That's what I'm doing. And along the way, I do have conversations with Justin about football and coaching and philosophy. I do have conversations and mentoring with his position coaches and coordinators. I do talk to the players. I do engage with the guys. I have several come up to me and ask me some advice. I have a couple that ask me to watch them in practice, tell them what I think. Those are things that are all part of what I need to do. Again, I want to be what's best for these guys and be the guy that can really be the support there that they haven't had, that they need to have as far as being out in front and just taking the distractions out of the way. One of the things Justin and I talked about was let me handle what's interesting. You stay focused on what's important.
Love that.
Yeah, you can't beat that soundbite for sure. Coach, like, so in your eyes, when you came in and you did all the look-throughs, and you're talking about your job, what specifically did you notice were glaring needs that you saw that Cal needed to be able to modernize and to stay, with, I guess, the pack of the changing landscape of college football?
Yeah, Rob, you're exactly right. The landscape is changing, and it changes constantly. When I first got here, it was the wild, wild west, the freewheeling. It wasn't revenue share at the time; it was NIL. Now we had the judgment come down. It's now considered revenue share. There's a cap at 20.5, which hopefully most people, probably 70% of us will adhere to it. There's a group of us that just can't help ourselves, but 70% of us will adhere to it. We'll try to follow it because we understand that. Secondly, probably the biggest thing too that you look at is the need to always constantly have to be recruiting your players. I mean, there are so many things that have come in that have happened that you've got to adapt to. I didn't realize that you constantly recruit. You constantly check in on them. You have to go beyond that, or you're going to lose your guys. And so that's one of the things that we've had to work through as well. There's a lot of little detailed things that you have to be involved with, that you have to pay attention to. And I think those are the things that hopefully the NCAA can get some teeth, and they can just say, look, these are the parameters. You have to stick to them. If you can get to that, I think you can really bring the balance back to what college football is all about.
Coach, can you expand on the retention piece there? Because I find that
Yes.
this is my world a little bit, being in the early talent space. So as you think about like retaining or retention in the program, are there certain things that Cal has implemented since you've arrived to focus in more on, like, how do you think about like an always on recruitment cycle versus periods?
Well, the retention thing is going to be very, very important, especially when a team starts having success. And the unfortunate part is the retention aspect of it is really going to be about what do you have to offer. First and foremost, we want to offer to all of our student athletes, that we are the number one public institution in the world. We've been voted that for well over 20 consecutive years, and so for the most part, that's one of our selling points. That's one of the things we talk about to these guys, is that you have an opportunity to get one of the really, truly great public institution educations, and one that prepares you for life. We have a tremendous, tremendous alumni network. We have several programs here to support them academically and business-wise, professionally later in life. We have what's called the Cameron Institute, an opportunity to go and meet some folks that are going to direct you in a way to help you later in life. We have a program called Life After Ball. It's a program to help you create your network so that once you're done playing, you get a chance to move forward. And the reason that's so important, getting your education, and I know people, there goes that speech again, but it is, because think about this. In the NFL, okay, college football, less than 1% of all draft eligible college football players have a shot to make it in the NFL. Less than 1%. That means, okay, that a transition rate of about 350 to 450 guys a year make it. But 350, 450 guys make it. That's how many are leaving too. And if you haven't been in there and you're not a tenured vet, and all of a sudden you're out, you don't have full benefits. You haven't made the type of money that you could set yourself up for the rest of your life. So you better have an education. And if you don't even get to be one of that 1%, I was fortunate. I was 1%. I'm less than 1% for 9 seasons. And then add my 27 years coaching. I've been in the NFL for 36 years. So I was fortunate. I'm that less than 1% that succeeded. And along the way, I graduated. And so I had something to fall back on, and it's fortunate that I did. But you just never know. So for me, that's the real important portion about that whole NIL program, is just understanding that when you're here, take advantage of it, but put that money away. I talked to Professor Stephen Etter when I first got here. I said, Professor, let me ask you something. If a young man came here and he stayed 5 seasons, okay, he took a redshirt year, all right, competed for 4 years. Let's say he made $3,000 over that period, or $300,000 a year, all right, for 5 years, Okay, that's 1.5. After taxes, maybe it's just barely 1. But he said if it was used properly, invested properly, you're talking about a few $1,000,000 when you're out, and after 10 years, that's a great kickstart. Okay, and here's something that's real interesting. All right, a Cal education over its lifetime, there's only one top 10 NCAA program that their education is more valuable than ours, and that's Notre Dame. Okay, ours is like 3.01 million over a lifetime, whereas theirs is 3.3 million over a lifetime. They're the only one that's better than us. Think about that. I mean, it's one of those things that you look at and you say, wow, it does mean something. It does. It carries tremendous value if you do it right. And that's one of the things that we stress with our student athletes. I share all that. I share the fact that we're the number one public institution, that we're 25 of our majors, undergraduate majors, are in the top 5 nationally. Think about that. 25 are in the top 5. So pretty much whatever you choose, you're talking about being top 5 at Cal. And then I emphasize the fact that not everybody gets that chance to play in the NFL. So you've got to really understand the value of being here at Cal.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Have you, one follow-up from me here, Rob, and then I'll pass it back to you. But, Coach, when you think about the financial side, one of the things that I'm very curious about is, has the conversation in recruitment changed pretty dramatically, especially from even maybe recruitment that you went through, and then the recruitment certainly that we were more familiar with back in maybe the Tedford days, where you're getting asked those questions around finance, and it's almost like an return on investment type of conversation.
Yep.
Which would strike me as very different than, hey, what's my playing time going to look like?
Yep. Well, that's part of it too now. That also comes into play. But first and foremost is what's in it for me. That's one of the really stark questions and interesting conversations you have with a lot of these student athletes now is what's in it for me? And what we try to do is make sure we have a student athlete development plan. So we can sit there and go through things step by step. First and foremost, we always talk about academics. Hey, we got to make sure you understand and decide what you want to try and major in, what you want your degree to be in, and how are we going to do it. We talk about how we map it out. Then we talk about growth and development as an athlete. Okay, working with our strength and conditioning, getting to learn from our nutritionists on how to build your body up, how to sustain that as a player, but then for later in life, how to maintain. And then we talk about your development as a player, not just an athlete, but now a player. Working with your coaches, working with your position coach, working with your coordinator and your head coach, okay? The opportunity to develop you completely as the true student athlete. Again, academically, athletically, and individually, personal health-wise. I mean, that if you have some sort of groundwork, some sort of plan going forward for your student athletes, and you expect them to stay to it, you have to help them stay with it. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do. We're trying to enhance our Student Academic Learning Center. We're trying to enhance our strength and conditioning program, and we're enhancing our nutrition program, just so our student athletes can learn, develop, and grow as the whole person, not just the athlete.
I mean, Coach, you talked about all the jobs and the roles that you've taken on and such. And I guess the curiosity question I think some fans have had, as well as myself and Andy, what does a 9 to 5 look like for Ron Rivera as the GM of Cal football? Like, what's your average day schedule?
If I go 9 to 5, I've already been in the office at least 3 hours, if not more. And really what happens is I'm getting up right around probably 5:15, somewhere in there. I get on my Pete's app, get my coffee ready, grab my coffee, come to the office, opening up my laptop. And just so you know, I've gotten more frickin' emails in my time here as the GM that I did my entire 13 years as a head coach. It is unbelievable how many emails come across compared to what I typically used to get. But anyways, so I go through it. I look at my schedule, trying to figure out what I have for the day. Okay, then I start answering emails, which takes me at least a good honest hour and a half to read them, try to understand them. And it's crazy because things come across so quickly that if I do any hesitation or skip over something, I'll forget it until a day or two later, and then have to go back and fix it. But I do that. So probably by about, and somewhere in there, I'll go grab some breakfast. Then come back. I'll have met with one or two people. I've met with our administrative assistant, Debbie Schramm, who's a lifer here, a tremendous person who's been involved with Cal athletics for well over 30 years. And she's a tremendous resource. And so I visit with her to find out what's going on. We got several people that are in support positions that I visit with, talk about. At some point, I'll cross paths with Coach Wilcox, several other coaches. I'll visit with Marshall Charrington, our director of player personnel, who's done a tremendous job, a fantastic job here, and his staff, and figure out what's going on next. And then the day will start, as far as football is concerned, is trying to get to go to practice. And if I'm not scheduled for practice, I'm in a meeting. And that's the other thing is the amount of meetings I've had also. I'm trying to figure out certain things to get corrected, certain things to work on. And I know, Rob, earlier you had asked me, what do I think, or what do I see that needs to be fixed? There's a process that needs to be streamlined on how we get things done here. A lot of our time is spent going through the bureaucracy of what is known as the UC system. I think there's an opportunity to look at these things and streamline this process so we can make things happen faster. They need to happen faster. We don't have days and weeks and months to wait. We have to get things done as quickly as possible. And so we've got to figure out how to do that and make it a much more streamlined process so that we can get the work done. One of the things that we were very fortunate to have was a report. We had somebody coming in doing a professional assessment on the program. I got an opportunity to look at those things, and some of the things were stark reality. The reality being that we are underfunded as a program as far as football is concerned by almost several $1 million. And so one of the things I want to try and do is bring that up to average. At least we could do is be average. I'd love to see us be average. As far as funding, I want to see us win, okay? And win as like a champion wins. That's what I want. But we're average being funded gives us a chance to do that. It really does, because like I've said this, Justin Wilcox and his staff have done a lot with being underfunded. And that's a pretty impressive thing that he's done. It really is. So I'm here to get those resources to fund them, to give them a chance to see if they can really succeed. And I believe he can, just because of that. And so once you look at those assessments that says we're underfunded, and then find out that we're 8 support people short of what's needed as well. And so what we've tried to do, obviously, is find the resources. We're expanding as a unit now. We're going to add some more people to our recruiting personnel. We'll be looking to add several other people to our support staff. One of the things that we're going to do too as well is, we're hiring a nutritionist just for football, which is a pretty exciting thing, believe it or not. It really is. And we've also started putting together a recruiting center. What we typically used to do is we used to put the guys, and we'd bring them and their guests, and we'd put them in the lobby of the football program. Well, that's no place to put your guests. So, and knowing that and seeing that was one of my projects that we started with, we found a donor that was willing to fund it. And so because of that generosity, we are going to be able to have a recruiting center that we're going to put up. And we're pretty excited about it because it's going to be branded Cal Athletics, Cal Football. And we'll also be able to allow our other sports, our other 29 sports to use some of it. And so there's a good piece of the donation that we got was really in our vision an opportunity to share with the other sports. And I think that's important because it should not just be about us all the time.
And forgive me if this is a bad question, but I'm just going to go for it. Is that recruitment center, do you have an idea of where that would be?
Oh yeah, it's going to be right up on the plaza at the stadium. If you know, a football department is just underneath the plaza. The locker room is right below that. The coaching offices are right next to it. You come up the staircase, and right across the plaza, literally the concourse, right across from it is going to be the recruiting center. So we'll probably be 100 yards away from each other, and that's it. So the opportunity to be able to communicate and work together is still there. And one of the things that it'll do is it will create space where we can put people, have people be able to be comfortable and have a little privacy at the same time. So we're pretty excited about it being built.
That's amazing. I mean, Rob and I have seen that firsthand going to the post-football game pressers, and then we walk out with all the players and the families and kind of that small corridor that gets a little bit crowded. Yep. So
well, one of the things that we've also done is we've now captured that corridor for football only, and we were able to open up another corridor next to it on the other side that will handle all the other student athletes. So we'll cut down the congestion for both of these areas and streamline the entry and the egress as far as that's concerned.
Love it. It does bring up something that's really interesting to me. I mean, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but like way back in the day, Mike Williams was the one that really said it out loud, where he said football and basketball are our drivers, and everything else is sort of, it's a trickle down effect from there. If football and basketball are strong, everything else, rising tide.
Yes.
How much of that do you spend your time on, Coach? Like, you've talked about it a couple of times. So, are you involved with any other programs, or is it just, hey, let's have a 1,000-foot view here that if we do something that's special for the football program, there's also all these ancillary benefits for all of our other student athletes?
That's what I want to create. I want to make sure we're doing that. You know, we have to show empathy. We have to show that we're aligned with our other sports, because our success impacts everybody. And you're right. And that's the thing that people have to understand, is that the success of the revenue generating sports is big. Why? Because it helps to fund the rest of the programs. We have 30 sports. Stanford has 36. We're one of the few schools that carry that many sports. And we do it because we also respect and understand how important the Olympic sports are. And that's what everybody has to understand, is that with like you said, when the rising tide comes, all the other ships rise, and that's what has to happen. We have to be successful. We understand that is part of the edict from the chancellor, is that we have to be beyond average. Okay, we've been average, and because we've been average, funding everybody else, everything else has been very hard, very difficult. We've got a lot of it done, but we can have it all done if we do it correctly, and that's the edict. That's what I'm tasked with. That's what our football program's tasked with. I've worked, I've shared things with men's and women's basketball. Okay. One of the things that I do is when I go out and I meet with the donors, I talk about what they can do for football. Then I talk about what they can do for the other intercollegiate athletic sports. Then I talk about what they can do for us academically, working with the Student Athlete Academic Center, led by Tarek Glenn, who used to play here, was an all-pro and a highly touted player in the NFL for many, many years. Gets his master's, comes back, and now he heads up our Student Athlete Learning Center. So again, these are your choices. You can donate to football. And if you don't want to donate to NIL, then we can donate specifically to certain things that affect football. A new recruiting center, a nutritionist, sports medicine. All right. Oh, and by the way, if you do sports medicine, guess what? It impacts the other sports. Why? Because the technology we get, the instruments that we buy, we can use for all of our sports. Okay, so if we get laser technology that we can use for the wand, so that we can do some treatments, some heating treatments with the lasers, absolutely, and we can use that same apparatus on one of our other student athletes. So that's one of the options that we try to create. hey, you want to help in academics? Absolutely. We'll put you with TARC and figure out what best way to impact it. Do you want to do something with the Cameron Institute to help us with the with our student athletes and them trying to figure out what they want to do life after sports? We'll be happy to do that. And by the way, no? Okay, then how about if you want to do something for Central Campus? I've gone with the chancellor on fundraising. We've talked about, doing impacts for sports. We've talked about doing impacts for Central Campus itself. I'm not just here to oversee football. I'm here to help wherever I can in intercollegiate athletics and on campus. That's really what the goal is. So I've tried to sell it that way. I've tried to get people to understand that this is not just about football. This is about impacting the university itself.
And that's huge because it felt like for years there was a little bit of the side of academia over here and the side of athletics over here. And then there were kind of the what we would call the Microsoft model where you have the two guns pointing at one another. And I think if you're the conduit between all of that, and that's something that's been needed.
And then that's part of our issue is that, believe it or not, neither one of us really take from the other. What happens more so than anything else is that a lot of times when we engage with a donor and we find out what the donors are interested in, then we direct them in that direction. Okay, it's not our job to say, unless they say, well, here's a clump of money, and I say, well, what do you want to do with it? He says, you decide. Then I'll tell them what we're going to do with it. But they sit there and say, well, Ron, I got this much money, and I want to donate it over here. I said, great. I'm not opposed to calling up the chancellor and say, hey, we have somebody that wants to give to this school or that school. And at the same time, I'm not averse to calling up Coach Mads and say, hey, I got a guy that's interested in basketball and helping you out. I've done that with TARC. TARC, hey, we have somebody that wants to help with the Academic Student Learning Center. We're going to have a facility still up here at the stadium, but they're building a new facility for him and our student athletes down in the Cesar Chavez Center right next to Sproul Plaza. I mean, that's what's happening, and that's the thing that we've been looking for is that kind of support from our alums and donors.
And for me personally, Robin, again, I'll pass it over to you, but that Student Athlete Learning Center is the only reason why I have a degree from Cal. I mean, I had a tutor for my calculus class, and that was the only way I was going to pass that. Let me tell you.
Well, you need that, and we need to make sure our students are being supported because one of the things that Chancellor has taxed me with is, Ron, hey, we got to graduate them now. If we're going to get them in, we got to graduate. They've got to understand how important it is that they graduate.
Well, I mean, Coach, you're talking about all the things that you're having to do and learn on the fly and the constant changing of your role. But who is your circle of advice? Like, who do you look to because this is your first time on this job? Campus has never had this position before. Who are you talking to gain some knowledge from?
Well, I'll start off like this. First and foremost, I'm over the top of football. I answer to the chancellor, okay? I don't like to say they work for me. I work with them, okay? I believe that. But I am over football. I am the decision maker when it comes to a lot of things football, except for the true coaching aspect, the in-game decisions, stuff like that. I'm there to be a supporter. I'm there to be a reference, a mentor for Justin. If he has a question or something, he can come to me and I'll give him whatever answer I believe is proper. What he does with it, that's his decision. I want people to understand that. I agree with him in a lot of cases. I thought the decision to announce that Jiren is the starter at quarterback for us on Monday was a brilliant move. Why? Because these last few days have been all about Jiren at quarterback. He's a freshman. Okay, good. We get it. It's over. Why? Because since Monday, we've been preparing for our first opponent. And we've been preparing for it as if Jiren is the starter. You know what I'm saying? So we've known for a week that he's our guy. The coaches have known that. They've been preparing for it. So now we've been practicing with him things that are designed around his ability as our quarterback. That way, when we get to next week, the entire focus, again, not what's interesting, but what's important, is our focus for Oregon State.
Well, I mean, I guess going off of that, with your experience being a head coach, in the league and being a coordinator, just curious, just for you personally, like does being a GM kind of satiate like your need to, like your itch to be around the game, or is coaching this separate animal where it's like you'll always want to go back to coaching at some point?
I would only go back if I was needed to go back. To me, this is really, like you said, it feeds the monster, okay? And that is the desire to be around the game. I love the game. The game has been great for me. It really, truly has. And I want to give back. I want to give back to the game. I want to give back to the university. That's what Stephanie and I have talked about. You know, she's one of my go-to people when I needed direction, I've needed help. And a big part of it is because, you know, Stephanie played collegiately and she coached collegiately and coached professionally. So she has an opinion that I value. Plus, you know, she's my wife and I don't listen to her. She might, you know, so. But anyways, I mean, I just think when you look at these things, you have to have something that feeds it. And Rob, to your question, yes, this does satisfy it. But if I had to coach again, if it was something that came up and, you know, and heaven forbid, you know, Justin, let's say he were to get sick for a day, you know, he can't do anything. And then it was like, oh, we need to, well, I'd step in. I'd be happy to step in and do what I believe he would do. And then once he was healthy, get out of his way. If that ever happened, again, that's just a scenario. It's not what I'm talking about. But if it happened, I would do it. But I'm satisfied. I have been. It's a different type of energy. It's a different type of challenge. That is, I have found satisfying. And the one, you know what? And he's a really good person. I love working with this chancellor. You know, he's our first chancellor that was an undergrad. Yeah. He suffered through those times. He understands what it's like. And he just wants to see us succeed. He really does. And so because of that, I'm excited to be here. I'm thrilled to be part of this.
Is there, I'm just curious if there's something that stands out as being, as you've gone through all this and you think about like the reward of coming back, kind of what Rob's talking about there, is there something that stands out as like, what's been more rewarding that you didn't expect? And then is there something that's been more, I don't want to say frustrating because that could, you know, lead down a weird path, but is there something that has been more complex and complicated than you initially expected?
Oh, just the bureaucracy of it all. Are you kidding me? I mean, when you try to do something compared to how we did it in the NFL,
yeah.
I mean, it is one roadblock after another, one detour after another. When you were doing something in the NFL and you wanted it done, hey, this is what we want to do. Let's go do it. Okay, here it's like, okay, let this person know we're getting ready to do this, to tell that person we're going to be coming down the road sooner or later, and let that person give them a heads up. So now you have to communicate, and it's a different kind of communications because each person's going to have something to say about it because that's their job. Why? Because you have to go through so many different phases. There's the legal aspect about it. There's the, the HR side is, hey, have we done all the processing we're supposed to? Have we involved enough people in terms of the interview process? You know, in private sector in the NFL, if you knew who you wanted to hire, that was the only person you really had to interview. You would sit that person down, you'd talk to them, you explain exactly what you expect from them, and you check their references, check their resources, talk to people that know them, look at the successes they've had, and if it meets up to your standard, you'd hire them. Here it's, well, we got to leave it open for 2 weeks and internally, and then we reach out and we in the third week you got all these other people coming in. Now you got to start your interview process. You got to figure out who you're interviewing, who's interviewing them. Everybody's interviewing has to be cross-trained and prepared to handle these things. It is different. It is truly different and time-consuming. So you have to communicate that this is coming down the line very soon. So please be ready for it so that once we get started, we can react to it very quickly.
How much do you find yourself do you find yourself ever wanting to like break through the bureaucracy, so to speak? Or is it more going back to what you've been saying throughout this conversation of like being a good listener and almost being the quarterback of these conversations and going in and understanding the whole hierarchy and how it all kind of pieces together?
Well, that's what happens. I try to understand it and learn about it, and I'll be honest. To me, it's just some of the things that we have to do. I think are asinine. I think we complicate a situation and a process that used to be relatively simple. And that to me is difficult. I get it. Everybody worries about people cheating and hiring people they shouldn't and paying people more than they should be. I mean, all that. Everybody worries about those things. Okay. I've been doing this for 37 years. And I also would like to believe that my integrity is I'm a stand-up guy. I'm not going to do things that only benefit me or the people I know. It's like this. If I were going to hire somebody, I would hire somebody with a resume. Would you hire somebody to do something for you in the social media realm that had won 4 Emmys for producing shorts in social media? Would you hire that person if it was a reasonable rate?
Yes.
Yeah, you would. You would. That's the kind of resume you want to hire people to do stuff for you, to produce. Social media is very important in this business.
Yep.
Okay. And my point is, if that's the person you want to hire because you know how good they are, why can't you hire them? Well, we got to interview this person. We got to interview this person. We got to check this. We got to check that. Hire who you want. Get right to business. Go to work. And you save time.
And time is money, as they say.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Especially in the media and sports entertainment industry. The longer you wait on something, the quicker it's going to go somewhere else.
Yep.
Same thing with student athletes. We're trying to perfect a way to bring the student athlete in, get the student athletes getting his grades read, his transcripts transcribed, so we know what grades transfer over, also which of his units transfer over, and then which school can we get him into. I mean, when you get into these portal times, you don't have 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. You need to get answers as quick as you can. And we're working with our admissions. We're working with the different schools to try and create an opportunity to get those things done quicker, because we do need to have those answers. And without stressing people, it's just that's part of the new era of college athletics.
Yeah, I feel like it's a perfect transition, actually. The new era of college athletics, and I mentioned this before. I read this big piece in Athletic about Andrew Luck. It was great. And one of the thoughts I had, coaches, and I don't know how this is going to land, so I'm very curious to go here. But when I was an undergrad at Cal, and my dad went to Cal, so Stanford's been the enemy for a very long time. And Yep. The alignment with the whole conference and moving to the ACC, it felt like all of a sudden we moved together, and USC and UCLA sort of been public enemy
Yep.
number one. And you made this amazing comment, I think it was yesterday, talking about how Stanford and Cal need to own the Bay Area market and do that for the ACC. So it brought up this question for me, which is, should we be looking more at Stanford as the ally and then and lower down that guard? I mean,
no. Oh no. What did Ronald Reagan say? Trust but verify. Right? Wasn't that one of what Ronald Reagan said about the good old days back in the day when the Soviet Union was still around? Right? Trust but verify. I think that's what it was. But that's what it is. For much as you hate Stanford, you got to respect them, though, because they helped us get into the ACC. And together, we can own the Bay Area. Just think about this. I mean, there's like 4.1 television viewers, okay? There's 3 metrics we're being judged on, okay? And it is butts in the seats, okay? As big and as many fans as you can get into the seats in your stadium. Eyeballs on the television, okay? Eyeballs on the television are really, really important, okay? And then winning and losing. But the thing being this, we're in the 5th largest NFL TV market, okay? And I know that because I know that for one time that I've heard those numbers when I was in the NFL, when I was part of the competition committee, knowing just how important the Bay Area is, and that's why it was important to have the Niners and the Raiders here. Okay, but now with the Raiders gone and the Niners all the way down south on the peninsula, and the Warriors are on the other side of the Bay, and the Oakland A's are out. We should own the East Bay as its primary sports entity, and Stanford on that side over there together. We should both own the Bay Area together. Why? Because think about what it means to television. Okay, if there's 4.1 million viewers and we capture 25%, you're talking about over $1 million, 1 million people watching us. Well, that's a lot of people to advertise to. That's why us being relevant is important. We have good, positive won-loss records, 8 victories, 9 victories, both of us, and we're going into the big game, and that big game might have implications for other things. Think about what that means. Now, all of a sudden, that 25% becomes 50% of the people. You don't think they're not going to take notice? You don't think that ESPN isn't going, damn, that's the market we got to have.
Yeah.
That's why we're at the ACC, and we've got to be the teams that represent the ACC in that kind of fashion, because now it legitimizes, like what happened last year with ESPN's Game Day. All right, Miami playing at Cal. When I sat down with the commissioner at the media days about a month ago, you know how pleased he was? We had a great conversation. He talked about how close we were. And if we can get Stanford and us above that mark of being close, but being there, being relevant, you don't think that this is not valuable? That's why when Andrew and I, we've done 3 events talking about this. We take the show and we take it on the road, and it's to really enlighten and inform the Cal Stanford faithful. It's to inform the local sports fan that they make a difference on the success that we have, because again, those 3 metrics, okay, sure they're controlled by winning and losing for the most part, but the other 2, okay, butts in the seats and having people watch our games, that's tremendous. That's important. And I told her, I said, look, if you come to the games too, do me a favor, make sure you got the TV on and it's on the right channel. So we get the double effect. And then if you're going to have a viewing party and people come to your house, tell them to leave their TVs on when they come to your house.
I love it. All right, listeners, you got your homework. That's it right there. This season, we know our assignment, and we'll make sure that the TVs are on and that we're tuned into the game, even while we're there at Memorial Stadium.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, we are at the precipice of something big. And what you want to do is you want your conference to be as healthy as possible. And you want every team in your conference, okay, in the ACC to be healthy and strong. It can't happen, but as long as it's healthy, it's strong, and it's competitive, when all this realignment stuff comes, we join together as this mega, whatever they want to call this mega group. And we've done what we've needed to do for the ACC. We're going to be included, and that's what we want. We want to be the best we can to help the ACC and help ourselves. And if somehow we drag Stanford along by the back of their neck, okay, great. They come along. But that's the relationship we have to have. We got to love them. We got to hate them. But we need each other. We need to coexist together.
Coach, we've been talking here for 45 minutes, and we do have a couple more things we want to get to, so we're going to push this conversation along. We've been talking about your job. We've been talking about the campus and NIL and all of that stuff. But the one question before we go on to some of the fan questions that people have sent us to ask you is we got to talk a little bit about the football, right? And I think the biggest question on people's mind is Jiren as QB1. And my personal question for you is, I know you've watched practice. Media, us, we haven't been able to see practice or watch him throw. We get the social media tidbits every once in a while, but that's about it. I mean, it seems like he he won the job. We listened to your presser yesterday about the throws he's making and all of that. For us who watched him in the Poly Bowl and the Hawaiian All-Star game, and then some of his high school tape, he does have a little bit of that it factor. You had a quarterback back in Carolina who definitely had an it factor. Mm-hmm. Not the same types of it factors for sure, but when you're looking at Jiren and what you're seeing, like, what do you think that it factor for Jiren is, and is there any quarterback that you coached or you coached against where you say that's probably like what he can mold his game after, and do you give him any of that?
Well, first of all, he's got arm talent. And he's got the kind of arm talent that translates into having the ability to make all the throws. It really does. He's got a strong arm. He's very accurate. He's got a good, tight, catchable ball. It's not always gunned in there overly hard. It's got a good, tight spiral. And he has a sense and a feel for how to place the ball, understanding not how to lead their guy into contact. You know what I'm saying? If the defender's on this side of him, he doesn't throw it to where it leads you there. He throws it to get you to stop and reverse out of that hit, stuff like that. He understands it. He understands what he's looking for. He takes that step back and he knows that this is my progression. If I'm going to work to this sideline, I got to get a feel for where my corner is. And from my corner, I got to see my safety. Okay, if my safety's in tight, this guy, I know I can throw him to the corner with a deep 7 route. Okay, if the safety's leaned over this way, I know I can't go there, so I'm going to throw it underneath. I mean, those are the things he understands. And you see him go through those progressions in his mind. You see him look and you see him turn. And when he turns in one piece. He doesn't turn fragmented where it's over here and then the shoulders coming in, the legs are behind. He moves himself in position so that he's always in a spot to throw. If he gets out of position, he has the ability to throw off platform. Throw with his, from the run with his hips cocked, he can turn and work and throw back to the other side and be very accurate. You don't necessarily want to do it because sometimes bad things happen when you throw across your body. But for whatever reason, he's had success with it. He's had success with it because I think he sees the field naturally. He's got one of those that type of vision that he sees the field naturally. He's shown some things as far as competitive spirit that's just unbelievable. And when you do those things, that's the it factor. All of a sudden, guys are going, "Oh my God, look at that throw! Look at that athleticism! Look at that move! Look at that competitive spirit!" Okay, I haven't seen him blame anybody. I've seen him always go, "Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, he should have caught that. I mean, that ball was thrown where it should have been thrown. That's got to be caught." But he doesn't. He tells me, "Hey, I'll get that down." I'm thinking to myself, "No, okay, keep that up. We're going to put another guy out there." That's the way I look at it. But he's that kind of guy, and that's what you want. He really is. He's shown some good natural leadership. He's a very humble leader. He does lead by example. He does look to give other people credit. And that was it. I think, and again, just to give a little background, Devin, I thought, had a good camp, but Jiren really shone. Devin gives you a guy you sit there and go, "Wow, that's a veteran guy, though. So if anything happens or we get into a tough situation, he'd probably be able to come in and handle and give us a chance to win." So I feel very comfortable. I do love the fact that Coach made the decision early because it settled all the questions. It was done, and the players shown a confidence in this young man. So I think we're ready to compete.
I mean, we're only a little over a week out now from our first game day. So I think it's starting to reach fever pitch for sure.
It should be. It really should, based on what I've seen. And this Saturday coming up, and to all the listeners and viewers know, is basically Fan Day, Fan Appreciation Day. Things are going to start right around 2:00. We have a practice, give you guys an opportunity to kind of showcase themselves a little bit. It'll be a light scrimmage, nothing live, but good pace, good tempo to give you guys a sense for what we have out there, and more importantly, give them a chance to see Jiren. And so that should be an exciting day. I'm excited to be there, and I'm be excited to see it.
All right, Andy, we good to move on to fan questions?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, Coach, we picked out 4 for you, and I'll kind of rephrase some of these for you so it's because it's Twitter and you have a limited amount of characters. One's from Adam Harris. How do you think about football's finances, especially as it pertains to NIL/revenue share versus coaching staff versus facility upgrades? These seem like the levers to pull to improve performance and recruiting, but they're all fighting for a slice of the pie. So I guess the question's about budgeting and how you shift the percentages of the budget to make sure one's getting improvements and one's, and maintaining that.
Well, it's a great question. First and foremost is we have a budget. The money that we're allotted based off the revenue that we generated last year from television and marketing and sales, for the most part, that budget's set. Okay. From that point on, we have to raise money for the 20.5. Okay. And raise it for our share. That's another task at hand. And then the thing you have to look at, to his point, is how do we enhance? How do we enhance the salary of the coaches? How do we enhance the facilities? And how do we enhance the NIL program? That's where the hard part is, going out there. And now you're looking for other revenue streams. I mean, you do work with your donors, but there's a certain point, too, where donor fatigue is going to set in at some point. It's going to be hard to constantly go back and bang on that same drum. So we have to create more revenue streams. One of the things that we're doing is we have a television show that we're going to now start up again. We used to have a coaches show. Now we're going to bring it back. We're going to have a coaches show. I believe it's going to be on NBC. We've been working with them. We're just finishing up on a contract. We have a group that's talked about coming in and being our title sponsor in the DeSange Family Motor Group, and it's a series of, they own a bunch of car dealerships, just great family, great Cal family for that matter. And so, we are trying to create opportunities to enhance what we need to do. Facilities, equipment, coaching salaries, support salaries. We need to increase the size of our recruiting staff. That's another thing. So, but a lot of that comes from the university, but that's not coming from the university, or we need to enhance it more. We've got to go out and raise or use the revenue streams or create more revenue streams.
All right. We'll move right on to the next one. Kevin Moang sends us this question. Ron, you and Stephanie have seemed to make major philanthropic efforts wherever life takes you, including at Cal. What has led you to center so much of your life on giving back, and any movements you are most proud of?
Wow. That's a great question, because that's one of the things that Stephanie and I have always felt was the desire and the need and the responsibility of giving back. Both of our families are military families. My father, his family served in the U.S. military. I got a brother that's was a police officer. So service goes in our family. Her family, her grandfather served in the military. He was in World War II. Her father served in the Navy. So we just feel that that's part of the responsibility that everybody should have, is that you should have something that you do to give back to the community. I learned this lesson from Mike Ditka, and I don't think a lot of people understand that, but when I was a player for the Bears, I was fortunate enough that I was player of the game one time. And a lot of times when you're a player of the game, coach would invite you on his TV show, and then afterwards you and your wife would go to dinner with him and his wife, with his wife Diana. So after the show, we taped the show, then Stephanie and I, we go to dinner with Coach and Diana Ditka, and we're sitting there having dinner, and we're at his restaurant at Ditka's, and about every 5 minutes during dinner, somebody's coming up and asking for his autograph or wanting to take a picture. And back then, nobody had cell phones. It was little cardboard Kodak phones. Cameras. So he would take these pictures, but he was so gracious. He'd be right in the middle of a bite, and somebody would come over, and he'd finish, and he'd put his knife and fork down, and he would wipe his hands, and he would turn to these people, shake their hand, say thank you, sign the autograph, take the picture. Now, after about 10, 15 people did that during dinner, and as we're finishing up, I said to Coach, Coach, man, that was amazing to watch how the way you treated everybody. And he looked at me, and he said, Ronnie, and my mom and him are the only people that call me Ronnie. He said, Ronnie, I'm going to tell you what. He said, as a player, you have a window of opportunity. And when you retire, that window starts to close. How open that window stays depends on how you treated the fan. He said, understand that. He said, because the biggest problem we have as athletes, as professionals, is we're constantly taking. you have to give back. And if you do that, that window will stay open for a while. And that was something that kind of was ingrained and has stayed with me. And I share it with my players all the time too, because I think it's important we understand that we have to give back. If we want people to, be there for us, we've got to be there for them. And when Stephanie and I were in Carolina, actually, it really started when I was a player in Chicago. Stephanie started her own 501c3 that she ran. She got a 501c3 rating, all right, tax deductible, and every cent went right back into it. We didn't take anything. Nobody got paid except for the people that came to do the events for us. Mm-hmm. That was part of it. And we did that for about 9 years, and she did it all on her own. We fundraised for it, and then we used the funds to do the things that we needed to do. That was one of the things I was really proud of, especially knowing that was what Stephanie was doing. And then when we get to Carolina, Stephanie felt that we needed to capture the community, and there were three specific charities that she picked. She picked the USO because North Carolina is the home of the USO. Plus, Charlotte was a huge military city. A lot of retired veterans had come back to Charlotte or made Charlotte their home because it was so close to so many other military installations. And then it was the Humane Society of Charlotte, of North Carolina. And what happened there was we got involved with them, and we started with their capital campaign to rebuild their shelter, and we helped them raise all the funds for it. Today, they have a brand new shelter, and through that shelter, Stephanie and I helped start a program called K9s for Warriors, support dogs for the warriors that came back, our military. So that was the second one. And then the third one was Charlotte had just built a brand new Ronald McDonald House, and they needed to do some fundraising for it because it sat right between two major hospitals in the area. And all those children that had to come there with their families, and you had to support that. So we started what was called the Bowlapalooza, Bowl with the Panthers. And that thing got so big, we went from a 24-lane event to like a 52-lane event. I mean, it was amazing. And it sold out. And we made so much money. That was one of the things that was really cool. And somebody asked me, so what do you see success as? I see success to me is when the community's involved. And the community got involved, and they got behind us and really helped us build that program up. So that's something I'm really proud of, and I'd love to see us be able to create that here, a culture of sustainable winning. But it has to be built through community, and I really think we can do that because we have the type of area, we have the type of donors, we have the type of alumni base, students and athletes that can come together and really do something special.
Wow. Rob, I do want to be conscious of time here.
Yeah.
Coach, I do have one quick question if you still have time for it.
Sure.
Because you mentioned Chicago, which is where I was born. Lived out there for 4 years after graduating from Cal. Favorite restaurant in Chicago, and then maybe finishing with your favorite restaurant in Berkeley, if you had to choose one.
Ooh.
Wow. Well, this is what I'll do. I got to break it down for you like this. My favorite restaurants in Chicago. Okay, my favorite quote unquote fast food place is Portillo's.
Okay.
Okay.
A classic.
The Portillo hot dog and the chocolate cake milkshake is phenomenal at Portillo's. Yeah. The favorite pizza is Lou Malnati's deep dish. Okay. That is phenomenal. Okay. Favorite restaurant, if I don't say Dicka's, Coach is going to be pissed at me. But I will say this, the foodie scene in Chicago is tremendous. It really is. And I don't think there is a bad steakhouse, but Gino and Giorgetti's was pretty special. It really was. It was a great steak place. I really loved that. I mean, and some of the folks I know out there are going to be upset I didn't say their place, and because you really can't go wrong. Here, in Berkeley, there's so many good places too. Golly. And you know what's crazy is some of the ones I used to go to are no longer existent, like Spanger's.
Yep.
Yes.
You know, one of the great seafood restaurants I've ever gone to is gone. I mean, that was an iconic place, and it was one of the places Stephanie and I went to for on a couple of our dates early in our romance.
That was like my childhood. I mean, my dad. He'll love this. He'll listen, and he loved Spangers. I mean, we would go. Please. We would go. I think once a month.
Yep, we used to go. Yep, Steph and I used to go once a week, and we go in and we get that big sourdough bread of clam chowder.
Yep, exactly.
Because you could feed 2 people on that, and that was it. That was, as students, that's what we did. We get one big one, and we'd share it. And her being a student athlete too, she ate as much as I did at the time. So, but God, that's it'd be very unfair to just single out one. I will say this: one of my favorite stops and one of the most iconic places is the Claremont Hotel. They have a place called Limewoods up there. Yeah. I had dinner there the other night. We had a consultant that came in. He stayed at the Claremont, so he and I met. We discussed a lot of things and talked about some of the things that that he works on as far as the NIL is for us. And just looking out that view, and the food was terrific. I mean, to name one spot up here would not be fair at all.
That's fair. It was a loaded question. That's my fault.
Yeah, it was a good question though. I love talking about this area.
All right, Coach, thanks for the time, and we appreciate you just willing to talk to us. I guess my final question to you, and this is a one-liner you can hit us with before you leave.
Okay.
What is your Yogurt Park and Top Dog order?
Okay. Again, just so everybody knows, Yogurt Park is where I met Stephanie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That is one of the really key things for us. And every time I go back, I order something the same all the time, and it's one of those things. It's a mini vanilla with cookie crumbs in it. Oreo cookie crumbs is typically what I got the day I met her. So that I always think about that every time I go there. Top Dog is I like the Red Hot. I get the Hot Link. Oh man, I tell you, the Louisiana Hot Link. I get that. With some mustard and some sauerkraut, and that's it. Just so you know, because I and then if I get a Top Dog, I tried to dress it up like a Chicago dog.
Nice.
Sure. Yep.
No ketchup.
Yep.
Okay. Mustard, relish, onions, tomatoes. Okay. And that's how you do a Chicago dog.
That's what we
just
call
like that.
A sandwich.
But you know what? The other thing, too, is right across from it is where I used to live my senior year in those apartments. So my stops there were typically Kingpin and Top Dog.
Yeah.
That's where I was. I'd make a quick stop over there. I used to get the buttermilk buttermilk donut. Oh. And it's yeah, and then give me a little coffee, a little latte. Back in the day when I was younger, and I could burn that off real easily. Today I got to be very choosy how I do those things.
Don't we all?
But once again, thanks, Coach, for the time. We wish you nothing but the best for the upcoming season and all the jobs and roles that you're handling. Hopefully, we can do this again soon. But we're very excited.
I'd love to.
Yeah, we're excited for the season to start. We're excited for Fan Fest on Saturday, and can't wait to talk to you again.
Are you guys going to be there, Fan Fest?
Yeah, I will.
Well, make sure we touch bases so I know exactly who I've been talking to. I appreciate you guys. I really do. And make sure you tell your friends again. All right? We need butts in the seats. Leave your TVs on. And if you're going to have a party, make sure they leave their TVs on, okay? It's important. All right? We'll take care of the winning and losing. You guys take care of that.
You got it, Coach. We'll do.
All right.
Thank
Go
you
Bears,
so much.
guys.
Go Bears.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.